I'm an American board certified OBGYN, a mom, a Muslim, and I'm talking about sex. This is the Muslim Sex Podcast. Welcome to the Muslim Sex Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Sadaf, and this episode is everything you need to know about the Menopause Monologues. And before we get into it, a few things I want to make very clear. This episode, of course, is not giving any type of medical advice. So if you have any questions about your health, make sure you go speak with your healthcare provider. And of course, as always, I am not giving any advice on religion. So if you have any questions about your religion, make sure you go see your friendly neighborhood religious leader. This is the Muslim Sex Podcast because I just happen to be a Muslim woman that talks about sex. So I am super excited to have on with me today the creators of the show called the Menopause Monologues. Welcome, ladies. Welcome so much to the show.
Thank you.
And for those people that may not know who you are, if you could just introduce yourself to the show.
I am Lulu Braunstein. I'm the producer of the show.
I'm Carrie Vanhouten. I'm the creator of the show.
And I'm Lisa Anne Morrison. I'm the director of the show.
Amazing. I am so grateful that you ladies were able to come on. This is so fantastic. So, Menopause Monologues, what an amazing title. And so can you tell the viewers and the listeners, how did this project begin?
Yeah, so a few years ago, I started having really inexplicable symptoms. I was having terrible monthly migraines, which was new to me. I was in my early 40s, and I was having these terrible mood swings of rage. And it was like nothing I had ever experienced before, out of nowhere. It was affecting my relationships, obviously, and my life. And so I called my older sister, like little sisters do. And
I can relate.
Yeah. They know it all. And I said, Julie, what is happening? I am losing it. And she said, Carrie, I think it might be perimenopause. And I said, what? I had never even heard of the word perimenopause. And she told me, like in one sitting, her kind of story. I'd heard bits and pieces of it over the years, but the way that she laid it out for me just in this conversation, she said, first of all, I can relate. This happened to me. And I was bleeding for a month and I didn't know what was happening. I thought I was dying. So I went to one doctor. He was totally clueless. I went to another doctor. They ran some tests. They said I was fine. No mention of menopause or perimenopause. I went to a third doctor. And it was just this story of complete lack of care and lack of knowledge of what she was going through. And no one said menopause, hormones, nothing to her. And she was just sort of forgotten about. And later on, she figured out that that's what she was going through. And I'm like, well, my gosh, how come nobody knows? How come doctors don't know? How come we don't know? How come our mom didn't tell us? And so I started getting pissed off. Can I swear on this podcast?
Yeah.
It's a light swear.
Yeah. And so I channeled that rage into action, and I called my theater besties, Lisa and Lulu, and I said, let's do a show. Let's put these women's stories on stage so we can all know and learn from them, so we don't have to be in the dark anymore. And so they said, yeah, let's do it. And so for the last couple of years, we have been very busy ever since.
Amazing. Yeah. That is fantastic. Yes. And, to your point of why didn't anyone tell me? I think that's a great question because I said the same question to my mom. I said, you never told me about any of this. How come you didn't tell me? And I was referring to, about sexual health and menopause and all of this stuff and perimenopause. And she said, no one told me. So how could I tell you? Which I thought was very profound because it makes a lot of sense, right? Like if we're not talking about it, there's a lot of shame and stigma around it. And different people have different feelings around it, right? Around perimenopause, menopause. that, if we're not having that conversation, and that's why I so love the title of your show, then we can't really come to a solution. We can't really increase awareness. So I think that that's fantastic that you came up with that. So now, why theater? Why do you think performance allows, medicine is better than, let's say, like an article or an essay or something like that?
That's such a great question. And we come from theater. I've done theater my whole life. So it's natural to us. It's a natural way of expression. But there's just something so special and unique about being in a room together when people are opening up and sharing. There's the electricity that's in the room that we all feel. It's this shared experience that it just feels like there's nothing like it. And it's the main thing we feel like we need around this topic is community. And so, sitting articles are great. Films are great. It's all helpful. But in order to create the community we're looking for, it seemed really important to not only just be in the room together, but share art together, because there's nothing like the vulnerability and give me the other word that I'm looking for.
Oh, I don't know. I can't even read my own mind, let alone yours. But I was thinking,
this is menopause. This is we lean into the fact that we literally can't find words, and then the other person goes in.
But what I love about it is that theatre and the humor and all the feels in this brings the audience really into being in community with each other. And then they're kind of open to being vulnerable and hearing their own stories and then feeling heard and seen, And it really is also a part of our show is that a lot of the pieces, and maybe I'm jumping ahead a bit, but a lot of the pieces are done by you and me, normal women, not necessarily actors. We do have some actors and we have their own stories, but we've got, everyday women's stories and everyday women seeing themselves on stage, performing their own personal stories. That really hits home,
That is, yeah.
I was going to say, when you were talking about mothers and I think everybody felt like it was such a personal thing. This is only happening to me. Therefore, I'm not going to share it. I said to my mother when we started this, Mum, would you, because I remember some hideous stuff going on when she was going through sort of perimenopause. And I said, Mum, would you share anything? Do you have anything to say? And she said, darling, nobody needs to know about that. And of course, I sat there just going, no, we do. This is the whole point, But she had some gruesome stuff. And so it was so personal to her. And of course, she's English, and that's a whole different thing. But,
Well, and to add to that, my mom said, I didn't really have menopause symptoms. I was fine. I was fine. Nothing to talk about. Now she's seen the show, a couple times. And it's coming back to her.
Yeah.
And she was like you were saying, it's generational. Yeah. It's her mother didn't talk about it. Her mother's mother didn't talk about it. So it was just conditioned that way. But now that she's seen kind of the things that women are going through, it's like, oh yeah, I did have that.
Yeah. 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 What I love about your show actually is that you are creating that community that you talk about. So many of us feel like we need to go through things alone, right? We're just kind of taught that, right? We go through kind of life and we hope to find friends that can relate to us, but most of the things we kind of suffer in silence. So I love the fact that you are opening up that conversation, and the fact that you allow, audience members also to go ahead and share their stories. I think that really builds the community and, really is helping to increase that conversation that we have around these topics, right? These topics that a lot of times and in a lot of communities are enshrouded in stigma and taboo. And I think that, a lot of women also see, perimenopause, menopause as the end of their youth, right? The end of their fertility, actually. I think more so in the West. I feel like in the East, when my mom went through menopause, she was so happy. She was like, oh, it was fantastic. I didn't have to worry about it, because in our religion, when we are on our periods, we don't fast or we don't pray. And so she was like, I didn't have to worry about any of that stuff anymore. I could just fast and pray and do my things. And I didn't have to worry about all the menstrual stuff. So I think it's amazing that you're bringing forward, these conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, sorry.
My Nana, the things that happen in women's bodies are so like everything is so taboo. Anything that happens in a woman, like my Nana didn't say the word pregnant. Pregnant was like a very rude word. She said in the family way, because it had to do with a woman's body. And for menopause, menopause, maybe they didn't even know the word, but she said going through the change. Yeah. And it's all these euphemisms, it's all just so secretive and so dirty and so taboo. Oh, I hate it so much.
Well, and that's, you mentioned our name, and we always have to give flowers to Eve Ensler. She goes by V now, who created the Vagina Monologues.
Oh, nice.
Her whole point is nobody's saying the word vagina.
Yeah.
So she was like, we're going to say it, and we're going to say it 100 times in this evening, and you are going to get used to that word. So,
our daughters are like, can you please stop talking about menopause, Mom? It's like too much.
100%. It's funny, right? So you have daughters. I have 3 boys, and let me tell you, they can tell you a little bit about menopause and sexual health. They are
good.
Well, it is interesting. I'm so sort of fired up by it increasingly, because my youngest daughter is 18 and she's been having some sort of sexual health issues. Not really, but because it's become such an easy topic at home, and because I'm saying the word vagina a lot, she has come to me way more than the other kids who are now out at college, and is talking to me about all sorts of things. And I really credit that to just it blowing the doors off this topic of being so silent. And it's really, that was about sexual enjoyment, which I'd never have talked to my mother about.
Never.
I'm so happy.
So, the format, we talked a little bit about this, is really intimate and raw. So what happens when women hear their own experiences reflected on stage?
You want to talk about the 3 pillars?
Sure. Yeah. So we live by 3 pillars: listen, share, serve. So in every city we go to, we do a workshop about 3 months before the show. We put the word out, please come to this writer's workshop. And it can be anybody. It's from our friends to, local actors in each city. And we get together, we get in a circle, we get really comfortable. Carrie is a Reiki instructor as well as many other amazing things, and does some somatic breathing to get us all sort of together and bonded. And we share. And then we have this incredible author. Her name is Robin Finn. She wrote a book called Heart, Soul, Pen. She's very passionate about helping women write books. She takes everyone through a writing exercise. So if you've never put pen to paper in your life, you can very well leave our workshop with the beginnings of what a monologue could be. So after that, we ask for submissions, and we go through and we choose submissions from what we get, and we start to work on those pieces. Then we go to the share portion, which is we put on a show, and we share with our audiences. Serve is our last pillar, and it's a really important one. That's when we have guests like you come, menopause experts and doctors come and do a Q&A with the audience. So they have just experienced these vulnerable, intense, personal, sometimes just funny stories. And all these questions might come up about themselves. Then they get the opportunity to talk to a really high level menopause specialist.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And it is
I
fun
love it.
during the show when pieces are happening. You hear, we're backstage. Carrie and I both have a piece in the show. And we just hear gasps and kind of, oh, that's me, and whispers. And, it's feels so good to actually be serving the audience like that.
Yeah. This last performance we had in LA, a woman wrote a piece, a really personal piece about losing her dad while going through perimenopause and being very confused about what was actually happening to her.
Yeah.
Was it life or was it menopause? That's what is it life or is it perimenopause is the name of the monologue. She was not able to perform it herself. So we hired an incredible actor and she got to come see her piece done by the actor. I know, it gives me chills just thinking about it. And we have on our Instagram, we have photos of them hugging. And so for her, she said it was an incredibly healing experience for her to be able to witness her story being told in amongst an audience who was listening and hearing and feeling her experience.
Yeah.
That is so amazing. That experience must have been so surreal for her, right? To see her own life being played out. That is fabulous. I love that. So, were there stories that surprised you while you were creating the play?
Oh, most maybe.
Yeah, probably every single one in one way or another. I mean,
I think of Lois, one of our wise women. So at the beginning, middle, and end of our show, we have pieces from that were made from interviews to older women in their 70s and 80s. We interviewed them and said, tell us about your menopause experience. And so we have an older actress playing these parts. We have had Jane Taini. She's in season 2 of The Pit, as well as she's a very accomplished actress. Anyway, the third wise woman piece in our last show was Lois. And something that she said that surprised us in a really pleasant way is that she discovered a newfound sexual freedom in post-menopause. And what was the line? She said, sexual freedom all over the place.
Yeah, she was having sexual freedom all over the place. My husband was in pig heaven, I think, right?
Yeah. It's so brilliant to hear. And actually, I think we're hearing more and more of that. And I'm kind of loving that ride out of menopause, which is, hang on a minute, taking back control of this and taking power over it. But her story really did start like so many of us, or midway through, where she was pretending she was still on her period to her husband for years, or
She wasn't in the mood.
Because she wasn't in the mood, because God, I'm exhausted. I have 3 kids and I, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. So she goes through all that in her monologue. And then comes round to sexual freedom all over the place. So it was really, heartening for me. I'm like, oh, yes.
Yeah. Some light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I hear that. Actually, that was, a lot of my patients will say that as well. And I think that a lot of women feel that, right? Once you're in postmenopause, you don't have to worry about getting pregnant. And I think there was actually last year, there was an article in the New York Times talking about sexual freedom and women finding their sexual freedom once they hit postmenopause. Of course, we always have to still worry about, if you're not in a monogamous relationship, still worry about infections and things like that. But still, absolutely, like, to your point, one of the biggest things that women worry about when they have intercourse is getting pregnant, right? So that's one less thing that you have to worry about once you hit postmenopause. So I think that's fabulous.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, there's so many things that were going through my head just then, but the sort of all in the mind kind of aspect of sex that, so much of it becomes mental. And after a while, you can sort of start believing that, I don't know, maybe your husband and you have come to the end of the road, or do you know what I mean? Because you're not sort of jumping on them. And then sort of to recognize actually that most of that feeling was I just wasn't a jungle gym anymore. I didn't want children falling off me or husband pouring at me or whatever it was. And so once that is all cleared, I'm like, oh, actually, this guy was the guy I chose. And, and now I'm free and I'm unencumbered by all the other kind of needs of other people. And now it's about what I want, which is kind of
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think so many women think about that, right? So one of the biggest things that we find in midlife is that women have decreased desire, right? Decreased libido and hypoactive sexual desire disorder. And so to your point, that one of the reasons why we know that women have decreased desire in midlife, aside from we divide into like this biopsychosocial model and, biologically, right? So women start to have pain with sex, they have decreased lubrication, they can have overactive bladder. And so that can definitely result in pain. But one of the, psychological component can be like in perimenopause, a third of women will develop like increased anxiety or depression, and that can absolutely affect desire. But then the social aspect, what you just mentioned was, the kids, right? So when women, a lot of women have decreased desire because sex just becomes one more thing on their list of things to do. So it becomes a chore. And so when anything is chore, you're not going to want it. And so, if when women go through perimenopause, menopause, as their children get older and women are not needed as much by the children, then they can take that thing off of their list of things to do. And now maybe they can put some more energy into their relationship. Yeah. And also we know that there's, spontaneous desire and responsive desire. And we know that for most women, it's actually responsive desire that, and there's a lot of things about that. But anyways, I won't get into too much of it. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you allow, say that.
At some point, I would love to hear all of that. That's really.
Yeah. So, okay. So I can just tell you, I'll give you like the shortened version of it. So, so in, when we talk about libido, when we talk about desire, there's two types, right? There's, some women think that there's this spontaneous desire and, there's this other thought that, they talk about spontaneous desire and responsive desire. And so there was a woman, it's an amazing woman. Her name is Rosemary Basson, who in 2001 created the human sexual response cycle. And so back in the day in the 60s, we had Masters and Johnson, who came up with this linear model of the sexual response. And they talked about like, excitement, orgasm, plateau, libido, plateau and resolution. And what they talked about is basically they were saying that everything's kind of like linear, like, one thing happens, another thing happens, another thing. And then when she came along, and there were different people that kind of modified that sexual response. But when Rosemary Basson came along in 2001, and I'm sure there were other researchers that, probably added to her research, but she talks about how she doesn't believe that there's anything as spontaneous desire. She believes that everything is responsive. Even when you meet somebody new and you think that it's so spontaneous, right? Like, oh, we just, had sex or we kissed and it was so fantastic. There were fireworks. She's saying that no, actually what happens is that when you plan something, like say you're going to go on a date with somebody new, right? The first time you met whoever. She said that you're thinking about it the whole time. So because you're thinking about that event the whole time, you're priming yourself, you're priming your brain. So you are actually going to be responsive to any type, not any type, but if you want it, you would be more responsive to some sort of sexual stimuli as opposed to if you weren't thinking about it already. That's why date nights work so well, because especially for somebody that has a low libido, somebody that has a high libido, you actually put a date night on the calendar and it gives the person with the low libido time to wrap their mind around that night of what's going to happen, what's not going to happen. And the person with the high libido has like, finally, there's a time when they're going to have sex because they're so used to their partner with the low libido, constantly shunning them and then being angry at them and resentment and all this stuff, that if you have a date night where you both agree to a time where you're going to have sex, that gives both people a time, something to look forward to, right? So the person with the low desire can be hopefully responsive to some sort of sexual stimuli. So this is what Rosemary Basson says. She says that she doesn't think, maybe there is something called, when you read Esther Perel, she does talk a little bit, but she also says the same thing, is that most of the time what we think is spontaneous is actually responsive desire. And it's because we have been thinking about that event. And so the circular model comes in where you've been thinking about it, and then there's some sort of sexual stimuli, and barring that nothing comes in to kind of get rid of that feeling, like social things, like more chores or kids that you're worried about, or sex negativity or something like that. If you're responsive to some sort of sexual stimuli, that will lead to arousal. And even if let's say you had low desire, that the arousal comes before the desire, which is normal because we know that the physiologic things that happen that arouse us happen before. And then if you allow that to happen, the desire follows, which can then lead to physical intimacy, which then leads to more emotional intimacy, which then will lead to more you being more responsive to some sort of sexual stimuli. So that's kind of like the human sexual response cycle.
That is fascinating and so pertinent to this time of life.
Yeah. Yes.
Because that's it. Because I think what happens to us, if you've been married a long time, if you haven't, at this age, you're starting to feel, because of society and what we're used to being desirable and beautiful is not being 55. And there's that kind of insecurities that start to set in. And then just the feeling like you're not as important or vital. And so that can really weigh on you personally. And then you're waiting for your husband to make the date night, which just doesn't happen. Let's face it. You have ever. So you have to suck it up and say, okay, I'm going to make the date night happen. And it just really speaks to this age.
All I can think about is hotel sex. Have you got this thing in your, it's like, I tell my husband, hotel sex, like, take me somewhere. It doesn't even have to, it has to be nice enough, but it doesn't have to be somewhere far off and fancy, away from home, away from kids, nice, clean bed.
That you don't have to make.
And I think that's it. I prepped myself mentally and I'm all for it,
Yeah, because for me, like, home is like chores.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, home is the shit I gotta clean.
Mm-hmm.
Not romantic.
No, not arousing.
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
So, menopause is still whispered about, right? We know that, or dismissed entirely. But why do you think society struggles so much with this transition?
Patriarchy.
Yeah.
Capitalism.
Mm-hmm. Say more.
That's it. That's my answer.
Yeah. I don't know. Our use is over, which is just absolute nonsense.
Yeah. That shows up in monologues about the feeling like I'm not producing babies. I'm not of use to the society.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm dried up, I'm over. And so, we don't need to, there's nothing sexy or, enticing or interesting about that. So let's just keep that quiet. Plus it has to do with your body. Like you were saying about your mom, it has to do with your bodily functions and stuff. And that's just something we don't talk about. That's something and there's just shame. I think if we counted, the word shame in our show, the level of shame that women feel when this time of life starts to happen, it's overpowering.
But at every stage of our sexual development, though, right? Like when I first grew boobs, I was like, oh
yes,
terrible, shameful, pin them down. When we first started having periods, oh my God, embarrassing. Even now, like if a tampon falls out of your purse in school, it's just like,
mortifying.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
It haunts us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think definitely, and it's really unfortunate, but I think that, things are starting to change. And I think it's so fantastic that you actually bring it out into the limelight, right? So I think that when we start to talk about things and bring them out into the open, then that shame has nowhere to live, right? Because now we're actually talking about it and we're discussing it. And now people have somewhere to go to get that information. And that's part of the reason why I started this podcast. I think that it's so many people. I mean, really, I mean, let's be honest, right? How many times you hear Muslim and sex in the same sentence, right? It just doesn't happen.
I like your title too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Put it out there.
Yeah, that's right. So, it's just bringing it out into the open. I mean, yeah, Muslims have sex too. I know it's shocking, but it's true. And I think that, people then have a place where they feel like, maybe I can get some information. Maybe, my family doesn't talk about it, but maybe I can go to this resource and get some, science-based, evidence-backed, researched information on these topics. So I think that what you do is so amazing because, you're really bringing out this conversation that is so needed, right? And even though we seem to think that it's all over social media, it's still not talked about enough. And I think that, women, I see women in the clinic, in the office, on a daily basis that are really upset that they're going through menopause and, all the things that they have to endure.
We're so behind. Yeah, we're so behind that. Yes, menopause is kind of having its a moment right now, and we're talking about it. And it's incredible, but we're still seeing at our shows when we go to major metropolitan areas where we do our shows, and women are still asking the most basic questions about what's going on with them.
100%, 100%. And so, what myths about menopause does the play actively challenge?
What myths about menopause does the play actively challenge?
That's a great question.
It is a great question.
I mean, I think the obvious one is the one that we're trying to break down, the sort of, this means that you just sit in the corner and dry up.
Yes.
And like the hot flashes are the only symptom.
Hot flashes,
there's a lot of symptoms, like you already said, like anxiety, depression, and also some weird ones like itchy ears.
Yeah, those are hilarious.
Dry eyes.
Yeah,
dry everything.
When people hear a heart palpitation, and then the one of the worst, and Carrie's mother has this big, again, it's not the cure for everything, but osteoporosis, how, it's so obvious. And if we're all on some estrogen, if we can be, that can only help aging bones.
There are life altering and sometimes life threatening things that can happen to you due to menopause. That it's not just, you're just getting hot flashes and it's you need to just get through that.
Yeah.
No, there are things like heart health. Every area of your body that estrogen helps is then at risk.
Also,
100%.
Rates of suicide go up in women between in perimenopause. It's really sad.
Yeah.
Suicide, marriages breaking down, as we were talking about, all your mental health. It's not
just a little hot flash.
It's not just a little hot flash. No.
And that's what I tell women, when they come into my office, I say that, estrogen, we have estrogen receptors throughout our whole body from our head to our toe. It affects everything, right? And to your point, it affects our heart, our gut health, our skin, our hair, our nails. I mean, just our brain, right? Like the brain fog, like you're just like, oh my God, what the heck am I going to say? What was I saying? I was about to say something. I can't remember what I was going to say. I mean, all of that, right, is affected. Your genitourinary system, your vagina, your vulva, all of that, right? Your orgasm, your libido. I mean, just everything is affected.
Yes. Yeah. And one part of hormone therapy that I think is only just beginning to be talked about because people whatever. There's a whole history of stuff around testosterone, and it's an extremely valuable part of the story, I believe. And people, doctors are getting there, but the poor doctors, they haven't had training.
No.
But they haven't. So
it's our system.
We had he was older, but a doctor, and I've forgotten what his specialty was, but a good doctor,
Surgeon, I believe,
in LA. And he stood up at the end and he was emotional, and he just said, every single medical student needs to see this show. He was horrified that, when he looked back, he had zero training, and even, doctors half his age had maybe an hour's training, or you can speak to this. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you, I'll be honest, I don't remember anything in med school on menopause. I don't know. But that was, for me, that was like a while ago. I graduated from med school in 2000. So I don't, remember. But like even in residency, I don't remember learning that much. All I remember learning is that that's when the WHI study came out. That's when we were told that, hormones are bad and you give the least amount of dose for the shortest amount of time. And that's it. And that's only if somebody is like begging for hormones, so we didn't learn much. So, it's, at some point we have to take ownership and we have to say, okay, listen, even though we didn't learn, we have to learn now. We have to really do the best for our patients. I will tell you, I had a patient come to me and say that her doctor, she went to a gynecologist and she's not far from where I live. And she came to me as a patient. She said that she kept telling her doctor she had vaginal dryness. Okay. And he's a gynecologist. You know what he told her to do? He told her to put Crisco in the vagina for her vaginal dryness. I'm not kidding you. And the poor thing was doing it. And she kept telling him, she's like, it's still irritated. I don't know, that Crisco's not helping. And he was like, oh, it's okay. You just have to keep doing it. I was like, what the heck? He's a gynecologist and he told you to put Crisco in your vagina. But she said, yeah, that's what he told me. So, that's a problem.
Yes, that is a big problem. Carrie mentioned her sister's story. Her sister ended up in our show. She tells her story in our show. She's a retired teacher, never been on stage in her whole life. And she's absolutely brilliant. And that first doctor that Carrie mentioned asked her seriously, after bleeding for a month straight, asked her, are you sure you're bleeding from your vagina and not your anus?
Wow.
The audience gasps.
Yes.
When she said every night.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That is absolutely ridiculous.
As if be confused.
Yeah. I mean, that's really, that is crazy.
I don't know why it's popping out, but one of our wise women has a line when her husband, she was having this rage fits, and her husband told her that a doctor friend, I can't remember, thought that she was going through menopause, and her reaction to it was, I thought I was doing everything right. And there's that burden on a woman
that it's your fault.
Yeah,
you did it wrong.
You've done something wrong.
That's crazy.
Body, and that one always kind of makes me tear up.
Yeah. No, that's awful. It's awful that she feels that way, as if she did something, it's instead of something that is biological. I actually, I say to women that, we are so lucky that we even get to experience this, right? Perimenopause, menopause. That means when we get to experience it, that means that we've lived long enough to be able to go through it, right? There's so many women throughout the world that suffer famine or war or things like that. And they die even before they get to experience this, right? So it's such, like, for me, it's a privilege that I get to experience, something like perimenopause and menopause, because then I can share that experience with others. And, so lucky to go through that. So what emotions do your audiences commonly express after seeing your show? Like what do they, come up to you and say, like, I felt seen, maybe heard?
Yeah, a lot of gratitude. Thank you so much. I thought I was going crazy. I thought I was alone. Thank you a lot. Which is
a lot of husbands say that too.
Yes. Our show is feminist, but it's Obviously, it's not man bashing at all.
No.
Husbands love it. Partner, young men love it. My nephew came, or my cousin came. Two of my male young men cousins came, and they were just like, "Oh my God, that was really good." I don't know what I was expecting, but it was really good.
Yeah, my nephew,
Awesome.
who is 29, was sobbing afterwards.
Aw.
So a lot of tears. I mean, and it's also really funny. A lot of, you're in the middle of crying and then you're laughing so hard, you're continuing to cry. So it's a lot of gratitude. It's a lot of like, oh, I didn't know that was really a thing.
Yeah.
Thank you. I thought I was, just imagining it. And that's what we're kind of taught to just, grin and bear it. And it's like, oh no, that's actually a real symptom, or that's actually a real emotional difficulty that is not, I'm not imagining it.
Our show has not just spoken pieces, monologues. It's peppered with all sorts of fun things. We have a dance, so an amazing dancer who created her dance originally from her feelings in menopause at this stage. And then she's adapted another piece, which was she'd asked friends to give her physical movements that embody how they're feeling. And she created this beautiful dance. We have a dancer, we have a live artist who does a portrait of a model who certainly a couple of times has been a monologuist as well. And she's a fascinating story because she is an actual actress, but talks about going through menopause as an actress and having hot flashes in auditions and her body changing. And this, her body and herself is her product. And now what do I do with it? And who am I? And then she becomes the nude model for this beautiful artist. We've had a couple of different artists. We have poems. Carrie has a puppet, our vagina puppet.
Nice.
As she says, we've all been talking about you guys, so now you need to hear from one. And this is
That's so
my favorite thing about the whole show.
Yeah, we really encourage any kind of art form. However your monologue takes shape, we love it.
Yeah.
And it makes for a really entertaining show. I think people are surprised at how entertaining, how fast it goes. Like, it is not just go to the microphone and a bunch of old ladies talking about right? Like society would think of Menopause Monologues show.
Right.
It is dynamic,
very lively,
exciting.
Yeah. And fully produced. Yeah. It's not sort of reading off a paper or any of that. So it is. So people come away just, having had a really good and informative night out.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to see it. It sounds so fantastic. You know what I think is kind of pretty awesome actually about your show is that it's organic and it takes people from the local community, which makes it even more relevant to that community, right? Because it's like they're seeing themselves on stage and they're part of something that's bigger, which is a bigger conversation about menopause.
Yeah.
And you're not going to hide it, right? There's no shame in it.
It's the piece. I'm a theater student. I was a theater, I went to a conservatory and studied at the school that I went to was heavily into experimental theater. And it's the aspect of our show that most ignites me because it's based on a company that I was really obsessed with, where they would go into really rural farm towns mostly, and a group of actors and creators, and do Shakespeare and go to the local butcher and ask the local butcher to play the part of, the butcher in the show, and ask the school teacher to come in. And so they would create this show together, but they would make it all about that town. It would be everything about that town, so that art is coming to you. We are listening to you. I think it's just so important to not just say, this is what we do and this is what we've learned,
Yes.
and let us show you. It's like, no, we're going to come to you, and we're going to hear about what you need, and we're going to envelop it in our.
I love that it's so organic like that. That's fantastic. It's probably
So
why the audiences love it even more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So our workshop in New York, we hope people come. You can sign up on our website. It's February 7th. And you can submit to our show 24/7 on our website, whether or not you come to a workshop or not. The workshop is just a nice community building experience. Yeah. And I think I was going to say something else, but I forgot.
Shocking.
Yeah.
It's okay. So, I'd love to know, do you see Menopause Monologues as activism?
100%.
Yes. 100%, especially now.
Yeah.
When women's rights and women's voices are just getting stomped on and they're trying to be shut down. We're saying no.
Our mission is to create change.
Yeah.
It's not just to put on a show.
It's a healthcare advocacy mission also. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Lulu.
Did I have something to say?
You looked like you were about to.
No,
So
I was encouraging.
Oh, you were?
But absolutely it is. That's exactly what it is. And we, I'm English originally. And just recently in the UK, the government has set a directive that every doctor needs to inquire of women over 40 of their menopause symptoms, which, is just like, duh, but actually it had to be a government directive, and that is the national health, so it may be easier to set forth. But we hear from fully educated people that, well, we've said this before, they don't have access to the care, the right care. Or even in LA, when we're talking about geographical, we thought it would be interesting for actors and, to be, and we think, oh, LA, everybody, looks after themselves so much. And the audiences stayed for the Q&A and had so many questions, and whether or not they couldn't afford insurance, they didn't have it, it floored us that they were still the basic questions.
Well, and even in California, where we are right now, we're the most progressive state in the country. And our governor just turned down the Menopause Care Act when it was on his desk. He said no for the second year in a row. So,
there's a lot to do.
Yeah.
And we feel like it is every person we reach to say you're not alone is activism in itself.
Yeah. So how did creating this play change your relationship with your body and aging?
Oh, that's such a good question.
Yeah.
You have great questions. You know what? I was thinking this as we were talking. I was saying to my friend the other day, when you said that it's a privilege to be this age and to go through perimenopause and menopause. She had just had a birthday, and listen, we're all aware of every wrinkle that appears and every pound that appears, and it's not fun. It's not great in so many ways. And so I was saying to her the same thing. Like I'd like to start to be grateful for being this age. And I've been an actor and a theater person and in TV and film my whole life. And so I've been very cognizant of the changes in my body and my face and my energy level. And this show has helped me so much. I feel so much more proud of the lines on my face and the fact that I'm living through these changes that are they're maybe not attractive, but they're real. I've become to have, I have more pride
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
It's very true. I'm not just saying that.
You said the opposite yesterday.
I probably did. Oh,
And
my
it's
jeans
your
are tight.
You can change your mind at any moment.
Yeah.
No, I fully agree. I think it has. It's allowed me to actually look at myself and say, you know what, this is all good. This is your life right here, and there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, yes,
That's true.
You can do filler and you can do all of whatever it all is, but it doesn't change the fact that you're 55.
That's right.
And getting older every day.
Mhm.
But I think I agree. I'm also grateful to us. I mean, it's pushed me when we started this. I think I was on the estrogen patch and progesterone, but I sort of didn't really know. No, I knew why. I don't know. I've just learned so much more and feel so much stronger mentally going into it, and I feel grateful that that I have a little more support. Yeah. And not just, wondering. And
I've changed the way I've talked about my body to myself. I am aware of those words that are only used to shame women's bodies, like vocabulary, like muffin top or 11s, or I mean, there's so many words for things that are wrong with women's bodies. And I used to use that in my own head, like, oh, my muffin top, but now I don't. I'm like, no way, that's just my stomach.
That's
just mine. Love it. So if menopause could speak for itself, what do you think it would want women to know?
I love that. It ain't over.
Yeah.
Right. That's right.
You're in your wise woman era.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crohn's. We love that word.
Yeah. It's a word that's been demonized.
Yes.
And now it means wise women.
Storytellers, wise women, nurturers still.
Community
builders.
right.
Matriarchs.
And it's energetic still.
Yeah.
It's yes, it takes a toll on your body. It absolutely does, but it's just it ain't over. I think that's perfect.
Yeah. The best is yet to come.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. The best thing you can do is to exercise and use your bones and body, and so it's actually a great little moment to notch that up. It helps, you feel better in so many ways, rather than let it all slide.
Mm-hmm.
And even a stressful way.
Yeah. So I actually tell women that perimenopause is, so in OB, we think of pregnancy as a window into your future. I actually like to say that perimenopause is a window into your future. You are given the opportunity during perimenopause, if you start to develop high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, all those things, to use that time to fix those things so that they don't become chronic conditions later on in life. So I like to use perimenopause as a time of reset and a time to really focus on your health.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. I'm gonna tell all my younger friends that.
It's a little cheat sheet for what you have to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's so clever.
So, for everyone that is listening out there and thinking like, these shows sound absolutely amazing and I cannot wait to see it because it just sounds so fantastic and I would feel so seen and heard. How can they find out where your next show is going, where it's heading? How can they buy tickets? How can they get involved?
Yeah. Follow us on Instagram is the easiest answer.
Menopause Monologues.
Exactly. Menopause Monologues. We're on Facebook. We're on TikTok, where you can see a lot of Lulu being forced to do silly dances. And you can go to our website. The website is really robust. It has all the information. It's the menopausemonologues.org. Right now, we're in the middle of a crowdfunding campaign through a tax-friendly donation you can make to our show, because we are a very grassroots organization. We're all volunteers. If you want to get rich, you don't go into theater.
Wait, no.
I know. Sorry, you didn't know. Donate, follow us, and go to our website. And we're going to be in
New York City
at Here Art Center, April 30th through May 3rd. And we have lovely Dr. You to be our Q&A doctor for one of the nights.
Sadaf is a doctor.
Yes, I'm so looking forward to that. It'll be amazing. So, well, thank you so much to all of you, all three of you. I mean, I can't imagine how hard, it is to coordinate your times and your days. And I'm so grateful that all three of you were able to come on, and, you just made it such a fantastic show. So thank you so much for your time, your energy, and for all that you're doing. I really appreciate it.
Right back at
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
You're
We would
welcome.
love to get stories from your listeners.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So remember to make sure you guys go to the menopausemonologues.org to see how you can get involved in your city, right?
Yeah.
And well, we are done here. It's been real and really intimate. And remember, this is not meant to be any type of medical advice. And until next time, this is the Muslim Sex Podcast. So thank you for listening to the podcast, and make sure you leave us a review, share and like the podcast. And if you leave me a review, I'd love to shout you out on social media. So be sure that you share it with all your friends. And thanks for listening.